LEGO Creator may have just made the best LEGO Dragon with this new set for 2025. Clocking in at 715 pieces, the medieval dragon's 3 build pathways allow you to make either a phoenix, sea serpent, or dragon. And we'll be taking a look at all 3 of these today before smashing it down again and seeing if I can add a 4th option to this promising set. So make sure you stick around to see just what I come up with. Opening this up, we've got 5 bags and 3 instructions, one for each build pathway, with the first of course being the medieval dragon. A short while later, the dragon is complete, and I've got to say, this really impressed me. Straight away we can see its slender green body contrasted with giant red wings, a real callback to that original LEGO Dragon in 1993. They've really captured the feeling of that classic figure perfectly here. Even though it's 700 pieces, the dragon isn't too big since it uses a lot of small elements to help detail the body, giving it a scaly pattern which I really appreciate. I do like that there are many different shades of green used here, with green and bright green for the bulk of the body, plus a lime green underbelly and some dark green in the legs to blend into the feet, which possess 3 small claws and sit on mixel joints. The legs themselves have more great texturing work put into them using different tooth and plant pieces, and they attach on ratchet joints so can of course move forwards and backwards and also splay out to the side, allowing you to get this thing into some really good poses, like making it more lizard-like down to the ground like this, or bringing them back for flight. You can even get it balanced on its back legs like this, turning the front legs into arms, much like that original dragon this is clearly inspired by. The front legs are quite small, while the back legs are much bigger, and they hide the black ratchet joints much better than at the front, where they do unfortunately stick out a little bit. Dark red spikes run down the top, all the way through to the tail, which is finished off with a big red spike of its own. The mixel joints here also mean that it can sway side to side, with the smaller segments at the end also being able to swing up and down as well. Then, coming to the front, we have the neck, which is fixed at this angle. Although there is a little bit of movement up and down, it's not enough to bring the head to the floor, so you do have to use the legs there if you want this beast to pick up some food off the ground. The head is fully brick built though, which, after moulded heads made their return to Ninjago, is definitely a welcome treat. It sits on a ball joint and it's really expressive. The eyebrows use these claw pieces so they can move up and down for different facial expressions. The mouth can also open and close, which, despite being a single stud wide, does have some teeth in the top. The nose can also wiggle up and down a bit, and so can these horns sat at the back. All around, just a really well done build and definitely gives me some ideas for whatever mock I come up with later on. I also really like how the eyes are done, using open studs to let the gold connecting them represent pupils. There are actually printed eyes included, but they're hidden inside the body since they're only intended for one of the other builds in the set. There are 4 exposed studs on the torso, so even though there isn't one included, you can of course put a minifigure on top to tame the beast. Batlord does look pretty good up there, doesn't he? Of course, he's sat between the big wings, which make use of all the dark red pieces in the set, with some bright red pieces adding more texture. Each wing segment can also move independently, so you can have a resting position or spread the wings out for flight like this. And with the ratchet joints attaching them to the body, the articulation is once again plentiful, letting them flap up and down or rotate around. And like all good dragons, he's got a chest full of precious gems sat upon a hoard of gold, with a goblet, ingots and other bits of gold lying all over here, plus some stalagmites rising from the floor to set the scene for the dragon's cave. Overall then, this is a beautifully made LEGO Dragon. Is it the best they've ever made though? Build wise, it does remind me quite a bit of Ninjago's Source Dragon, just scaled down a bit. And the callback to the original LEGO Dragon also makes for a really great appearance. So it might not be the best they've ever made, but it is absolutely up there. Now, just what do the other builds have to offer? Well, next is the Sea Serpent, which does leave behind a lot of extra pieces for you to use as you please, but even so, the designer I think has once again done a really great job with this creature's build. The serpentine body is naturally quite long and thin, and the underbelly uses the same bright green tiles that the dragon did, with green spikes running along the top as well. The sides meanwhile are covered by red plates with green tiles adding a nice scaly pattern to it. And I do like the overall consistency to the colour scheme, there's just one small issue. While it is almost symmetrical, if you look at the tail from this side, you can see that the dark green does sadly break the consistent green band of scales that runs all the way from front to back. The middle of the body is raised up, and that does make for a nice place to hold onto it if you want to swoosh it around or whatnot. It's fixed in this single pose, so there's no movement in the body itself. However, you can still move some of the limbs around to add a tiny bit of variation. The tail can rotate like so, and the mixel joints back here mean you can swing it up and down as well, with the large red end piece also able to twist around a full 360 degrees and get some side to side motion. At the front, there are two fins attached to the body with ratchet joints. I like the bright red scale tips on these. It's simple, but it adds a nice bit of contrast and makes them match with the tail, which is really nice to see. Of course, they can lift up and down, rotate around, or swing forwards and backwards, so the beast can use them to propel itself through water. Up from there, we traverse the long neck and find the head sat on the end. This build is much bigger than the dragon's head, and honestly, even better. I love the use of plant pieces with gems on the end used to represent the beast's eyes, and the red spikes at the back of the head adding more detail as well. The whole thing is on a mixel joint, so you can move it around a tad, although it can't really look up very high as it does flop back down due to its weight. The mouth can also open up, revealing 4 small teeth. While the medieval dragon takes influence from Western dragons, this is clearly much more Eastern inspired, so it's great that you have that option between the two, and I really like how the face for this has turned out. I think it'd be interesting to see this form part of a Lloyd dragon for Ninjago. I really do miss the brick built heads those dragons used to have, so building this was, again, a really fun treat. Overall though, this is definitely more of a display model. The dragon has a lot more to offer, but that's okay because I do like the overall appearance of this serpent, and after all, it is only a secondary build. Finally, it's time for the Phoenix. This time, the creature build is predominantly red in colour with some golden accents, and I just want to say right off the bat, this set is 3 for 3 for great builds because this is another stunner. The body is actually built upside down with the golden underbelly showing the tops of the studs and the anti-studs being exposed at the top here. I love the tail, which as you can see has those gold feather tips and some bright red claw pieces, just adding some texture to it all. It can also lift up and down, which for a bird is pretty much all it needs to do. There's a bit of green at the bottom here for the tail and moving into the legs as well, which sit on ratchet joints so can move around pretty much anywhere you want. The wings are really well made. They're similar to the dragons, but there's been a good effort made here to make them distinct, with more golden feather tips present here and a lack of claws toward the front. Just like the legs, they can move around to flap up and down for flight or rotate around into different poses, like a nice resting position with them close to the body like so. The individual wing segments also fold out just like the dragon, so again, you can really get some nice looking flight poses from this just by making slight changes to the wing shape. It's really well done. The head finishes it all off wonderfully. The neck can lift up and down, while the head itself can move around however you want. It's so expressive, and unlike the sea serpent, it can actually look up into the sky without flopping back down. The face is also super cute. It of course uses the eyes that were hidden in the dragon, and the beak can also open up to chirp or grab some food. I bought this set for the dragon, but honestly, once I'm done with the mock, I might rebuild the Phoenix instead and keep it on display. It's really good. There are holes in the bottom of the feet, and that's of course so you can perch the bird on this small stand, which uses up some of the green elements in the set. Although there are plenty left over, enough for me to start making an attempt at my own addition to this set. Still, I think it looks quite good with the Nexonite shields adding some texture to it, and even at the top where the bird's feet attach, it's still all nicely decorated. The claws can't bend down to look like they're grabbing onto it though, which is a little unfortunate, but overall the Phoenix does look pretty regal set up here, and is another fine addition to this set. Since I've already made a start, we might as well tear the bird apart now and see if I can add a 4th build to this 3-in-1 set. And so here is what I've come up with. Hopefully you can see it's supposed to be a Spinosaurus. LEGO haven't made one of those since 2001, and since there is a new fully moulded Spino confirmed to be coming out later this year for Jurassic World, I thought it would be cool to try and make a brick built version too. The tail has changed a bit from what I originally came up with, mostly because I needed to take some of the pieces from it to use elsewhere and also make it fit the colour scheme better, adding those red pieces on top. I attached it to the body with that ratchet piece so it can rotate around a tad, although the sail on top does limit that a bit, and the ball joints help it sway side to side when it's turned at an angle like so. Moving on to the body itself, I used a lot of the red wedge pieces to make the sail, and I think it's turned out okay, at least from the front. The back is a bit plain with the backs of those plates there, but it's not terrible. Since the sail is actually part of the body and not just something that's kind of sat on top, I also decided to sort of blend it in by adding those long wedge pieces running along on each side, decorated with green and red scales. The sail itself just attaches on top using these bracket pieces, and it is securely held in place, so it can't really be knocked off by accident. For the legs, I took some inspiration from the back legs of the dragon, as they were done pretty well already. I just beefed them up a bit and added in some red pieces to keep that colour scheme going. The feet are also a bit bulkier with a large claw in the middle. The arms are quite thin, as I wanted to make sure the theropod appearance was obvious even from afar, but I tried to make sure they aren't stubby like T-Rex arms, so they're quite long with elbow and shoulder articulation and giant claws forming hands at the end of each, so they can grab onto items, like the phoenix head, which I did my best to keep built so the dinosaur would at least have something to eat. And finally we make it to the front of the beast with its thick neck and head. The neck again has those red bits on top blending it into the sail, and I sat that on a mixer joint so it can move up and down, although if it's not angled just right it will flop down thanks to its weight. Then for the head, it's got that long Spinosaurus snout with some vicious teeth inside. I sort of merged the heads of the dragon and sea serpent together for this one and then decorated the back of the head with some more scales like so. Thankfully this can all balance on its two legs properly and also lower its head all the way down to the ground without falling over. So there we have my take on Spinosaurus aegyptigus, one of the largest carnivorous dinosaurs to ever walk the earth, back in LEGO form. I'm not really someone who makes mocks too often, and I'm also not a qualified LEGO designer, so I'm not going to attest to the overall quality of this. There are plenty of flimsy pieces here, so it definitely wouldn't hold up to any scrutiny as an official product, but for the purposes of this video and just as an actual item for display, I'm pretty happy with it. Is the Creator 3-in-1 medieval dragon worth the $60 price point then? Absolutely. All three builds in this set are really well done and definitely worth building up for yourself, even if you only really care for one of them based on the pictures alone. And as I've proven, even an amateur mock maker can reimagine it into something half decent, adding more options to three already excellent models. So if I can make this, just imagine what you could do with it. If you made it this far in the video, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again very soon.